that's what we're here today to talk about is native plants, and we're definitely talking on more of a traditional approach to native plants. And by that, I mean we're not talking necessarily about plants that we have now recognized as being native or naturalized. We're talking about the plants that, basically were the formation of life as we know it in southern Alberta, the southern Albertan grasslands, so Montana, Wyoming, Alberta, Saskatchewan. It's a huge swath of land when you look into it. Some of these plants, some of them actually, the same plant that grows in Alberta grows in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
So a very, very large swath of land. Like, we tend to picture it, but because we're Calgary, because we're Alberta, we focus on that. And this part is absolutely true. I recommend you Google it, read about it. And it's really, when I heard it, it was kind of like a punch right to the guts. And then it was like, okay, well, we need to do something about it. And one of the most endangered habitats on the planet is the southern Alberta grassland. Because of expansion, because of development, because of agriculture, and all of the things. And the vast majority of, when we picture southern Alberta native indigenous lands, we tend to think of grass, okay? Then, when we think of grass, we tend to think of, well, it's just grass. And that's kind of where a lot of times our brains stop. We go, it's just grass. Grass is grass is grass, right? There's not much to it. And when we see what happened, the settlers came and they're like, well, it's just grass, it's pretty easy to take care of, and they rip it all out, and then they plant their crops. And then suddenly, we saw all of these problems, the dust bowls happening, soil erosion, flooding, etc., etc., etc. Well, the grasses mitigated all of that. The native plants, not just the grasses, all of them had a part to play. And we have teamed up with another local company just out in Strathmore, just past Strathmore, called Ecologic. There's more to the company, but the three people that I work with, big shout out to them, is Nathan, Caitlin, and Eric, and they are fantastic. And they are really striving to bring back native plants, and we partnered with them, we're working with them, and we're going to have these native plants back in our store. We did a talk about it at the Home and Garden Show. We have a planting initiative coming up with the City of Calgary, and we're going to have native plants available for sale here at the store. Everything from grasses, needle and thread grass, blue grama, rough hills, or rough fescue, foothills rough fescue. We're going to have willows, roses. We're going to have the prairie crocus, massive favorite of mine. I cannot wait to get one of them in my garden. Purple prairie clover, plains coreopsis, a huge list of the who's who of shrubs, trees and shrubs, grasses, and perennials. So now we want to ask, and I've got my notes here again. We did away with the PowerPoint, so I'm just I got my notes to go through here, because this project means a lot to us. And when I say us, I don't mean just me. The staff are unbelievably excited for this. I'm not even going to talk about how excited Brandy and I are. And then how many other people, the City of Calgary, when we presented our initiative to them, they're giving us a plot of land, they're giving us a bed that we can plant in. The Horticultural Society are part of it. So many people wanted to be part of this initiative because we want to bring these plants back. So why use native plants? Let's start there. You come to somewhere like Golden Acre and you walk in and we have apple trees and pear trees and cherry trees, and we've got spireas and hydrangea. The list goes on and on and on and on. And you look at all these magnificent plants and the color and the beauty, And then we go native. And a lot of people go, well, the native plants, the grasses and whatnot, are they as pretty? I'd argue they're prettier in some cases. Yeah, some of those cultivars and hybrids that they've done, yeah, they are breathtaking. They're outstanding. I love my flowers. But some of those native grasses and native perennials and the trees are magnificent. And the reason I like using them, and again, I'm going to say this probably a few times, I'm not expecting you to go out and rip everything out of your garden and only put in natives. They play really well with others. So you don't have to, it's never all or nothing. But not only do the native plants bring all of the beauty that we want, we're going to talk about that, but they're adapted to this climate. The amount of times we get people who come and their tree has died, their shrub has died, their perennial didn't come back, etc., etc. Now, it's not many. You know, if we sold 100 trees, it would be less than 1% that get returned. But it happens. Our climate is brutal. If you don't know what you're doing planting-wise, if you make a mistake, again, you know, it's harder and harder and harder on the plants. The native indigenous Alberta plants, they thrived in this weather. Other plants could not make it. These did. That is why they are here. So if you're looking for something kind of, you know, set it and forget it. There's another step in there, but I'll whisper because we're going to talk about it. Set it, establish it, forget it. But it doesn't kind of sound the same. That's what you want. You want to start looking at the native plants because they will bring resilience, hardiness. They can take a brutally cold winter with zero snow coverage, or they can take the flip side, the winter that we get that is brutally cold, but also we have snow up to here. They can become more drought resistant. They can handle the Chinooks in the winter where we go from minus 30 to plus 20 in the span of 2 days. The 16, 17 hours of sunlight we get during the summer, they can take it all. And they take it with a smile on their face because they are adapted to the climate. They evolved in this climate, so that they're perfectly suited for it. And because of that, it ties, excuse me, ties to, I hope everybody's got their tea, their coffee, everything going. They support the local ecosystem. And it's so, so important. I think everybody, especially gardeners, I know normally I'm talking to a captive audience. Maybe if I just, you know, went down to downtown and started talking, people would be like, I don't know anything about bees. As gardeners, we tend to be a bit more savvy. Everybody's heard about declining bee populations and bees are suffering and whatnot. But we're talking specifically now about the native bees, the native bugs, the birds that are from this area. Well, that species of life evolved and adapted because of the plants. There's a perfect energy, a symbiosis, that this plant does great with this bee, and you know, this certain butterfly needs the nectar and it lays its eggs on this plant and it all works. And we have somewhat disrupted that system. So bringing it back, not only do we end up with a, you know, tougher, more resistant garden, but the animals love it too. And we get these bees, we get these bugs. We help sustain this natural environment. And again, it doesn't, I can be 100% guilty of this when somebody says that. And I go, yeah, well, I have a small property. I can't put in, you know, 500 willow and 3 acres of grass. Doesn't matter. 1 or 2 grasses will help. The birds, the bees, the butterflies, the other bugs will see them and they'll be like, oh, that is my plant. That is my jam. And they will go to it. So providing the shelter, the habitat, the food, the resources, that these insects are looking for, we can help bolster the local insect and bird community. And that is essential for having a healthy garden. And we've talked about this, I feel like it's just me. Every week have we talked about soil health this year?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about
if it's important.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it again. All right? We're going to talk about it again from it that we've talked about amending our soil, we talked about best watering practices in our soil, and now we're going to talk about overall soil health. Everybody, I think, knows, we've heard about soil erosion, we've heard about soil compaction, all of the things that, again, I mentioned it at the beginning, the Dust Bowl, the huge flooding in the prairies and whatnot, landslides, plants giving way, and mud running and whatnot. So much that we've heard about. And it seems like we hear more and more about it as it goes on. And again, that is true. We are hearing more about it. And the native plants actually inhibited this. They actually support our soil. Now, I showed a picture last week, so anybody who remembered that can look at it. But it's the difference in a root system between a native grass and an agricultural crop. So the agricultural crop is probably taller than me, corn, wheat, barley, whatever. My height, maybe a little bigger. The root system is about this big. That's it. Now you look at some of those native grasses, and the grass might be this tall. Bunch grass, maybe 2.5, 3 feet tall, maybe 3.5. The root system is 7 foot. Okay, it's like this tall, this wide, it branches out everywhere. Okay, and that's one example. And this root system locks down the soil. We've talked about that before, about how the root system in plants, why it's so important, because it gives the plant stability, but it also gives stability to the soil. So it locks it down, and it plays really well with others. It's not like the spruce tree. Okay, I love spruce trees. I have no problem with spruce trees. But around a spruce tree, the root system, it steals all the water. This root system doesn't. It actually helps retain moisture. These plants tend to be more drought resistant, so they're like, hey, do you guys need some of my water? Take it. They are very much like a linchpin of the garden bed of the prairie because of that. And when they hold that soil in, and they're preventing erosion, and they're locking that soil, it's going to keep more goodness in. It's going to help the other plants. It also helps with water filtration. It's cleaning the water, giving all of the other plants what they need. So it works on a ton of levels. But the other factor is, we go the other way now, and easy to look at plants and animals and go, oh, that animal is, native to this area. You're not going to go down to Jamaica or go to England and see a grizzly bear. You're just not. Because those animals evolved here. So easy to think of that with animals. Pretty easy to think of it with trees. We're not going to see a palm tree in Grand Prairie. Okay, I mean, we may in a garden center, but you're probably not going to see palm trees in somebody's yard, because we look and we go, oh, that tree belongs somewhere else. Well, the same is true of the soil. If you look at the soil from Hawaii to northern England to the prairies, it's a vastly different soil. It's a vastly different makeup because of what's happening. One of the main ingredients in soil is decaying plant matter, is the plant matter that gets broken down and it naturally composts, and the bugs eat it and they turn it in, and snails eat it and worms eat it and all of the other thing, and they're pooping it out and they're making this soil. So as these native plants are done for the perennials, the grasses, and they're finished, poof, and they sink down onto the soil. Then in the spring, the new shoots come out, and the old dead leaves, so this grass here, all these leaves are dead. The new tufts come out. Some of them stand up, but a lot of it is dead tips. That is going to break down and create a new rich layer of soil that will support the plants that are growing in it. So there is so much more happening when we talk about the soil health and putting the plants in. And we're talking about them stabilizing it and filtrating the water and helping distribute the water and helping the other plants lock in. They're also feeding the soil naturally. That natural Albertan soil does better with natural Albertan plants. And these plants, a lot of times we get that. People go, oh, it's such a heavy clay soil. It's such a nightmare. these plants have evolved in it. They absolutely add a little bit of compost, get them going, help them establish. Once they're established, go out on Nose Hill. I promise you, there's nobody on Nose Hill out there amending the soil. There's nobody. I go out there all the time. Not once have I seen anybody adding sea soil and coconut coir. And
can you imagine how much that would cost?
it would take quite a few truckloads. But nobody is doing it. Yet most of the plants there are thriving. They're healthy. They're abundant. When they bloom, the blooms are everywhere. Crocus popping up all over the place. And that's because that soil, that cycle of, dieback, renewal, feeding has formed itself. It's a good system. And we've talked about this. I'm going to talk about it again because it is so important. Felt like I left you guys on a cliffhanger there while I had my tea. Drought tolerance. And last year, anybody in Calgary, we are well aware of the water. We've already talked about water here. Talked about water on Global. I'm going to be talking about watering on CTV. I imagine the guys on the floor are getting constantly asked, water, water, water. Everybody remembers last year not being able to water. What happened? We made it through. We're gardeners. We're tough. We're resilient. There's ways around it. And we did it because, hey, that's what we do. But having drought-tolerant plants, well, it's awesome. Sorry, I just want to quickly look at my notes here, make sure I didn't miss anything. I did not. So, when we have our drought-tolerant plants, when we have our drought-tolerant plants, I wrote basically the same thing twice, that's why I'm looking. We need to understand one thing right off the bat, and that is every single plant that we plant needs to be babied. I take a grass, drought-tolerant, hardy, southern Alberta perennial, and I put that grass in my garden, and I walk away and I don't water it, and it's July, and there's no rain, it's probably going to die. If not die, it is going to suffer greatly. Most of the time, in any desert condition, in any area that gets prolonged periods of dryness, prolonged periods of moisture, plants tend to grow during the rainy period or the wet period. That's because they bloom, they get their seeds out, the rain, the water, the wind moves their seeds around, the ground is wet enough, seed gets in there, has enough, starts growing, boom, it's establishing. So a drought-tolerant plant does need to be watered in. But once it is in there, it's in there. It may go dormant. It absolutely may go dormant. Go on Nose Hill at this time of year. Everything is green. It's lush, it's green, it's beautiful. I just can't get enough. I'm planning on taking Jimmy up there this afternoon. Can't get enough of Nose Hill at this time of year. Go up middle of August, it's brown. It is absolutely brown. You go back middle of September, things are green again because we got a bit of moisture. They die down for the winter. So if these plants don't get water, yeah, they may brown. They may be like, I'm out. But they're not dead. They just go dormant and they're ready to come back. They have the drought tolerance. Where some of our other perennials, you go 2 months without a drop of water, it can suffer to the point that they won't be able to make it through the winter. They are too weak. And if you have a drought-tolerant plant and you're out there and you water it weekly, bi-weekly, whatever, it just won't go dormant. It'll do just fine. It's drought-tolerant. That doesn't mean it's a cactus, as in, don't water me. It just means I can take less water. Because a lot of people tend to go, oh, I can't water that. It's drought-tolerant. Nope, it can just take not a lot of water. It will still adapt to it. And the drought tolerance takes us in. This is where my notes kind of bled into each other, why I had to read them there. But the drought tolerance then leads us into something that I think, everything else I've said is great and we love it. And as a gardener, I'm very interested in bugs and blah, blah, blah. But as the homeowner who wants to plant, this I think has to be the #1 selling point for native plants. Low maintenance.
Low maintenance!
People come up and they're like, I want a garden that's no maintenance. Then you don't want to garden. Because there's no such thing as no maintenance, but there is such a thing as low maintenance. And that's where these plants come in. Again, they are so low maintenance, you don't even have to water them. Once they are established, I'm going to beat that into the ground. But most of these plants, like we said, they're used to this type of soil. They're used to these type of conditions. They're used to the level of nutrients, the NPK value of the soil. They have adapted and evolved to thrive in these conditions. So most of them, if you fertilize sparingly. I mean, they can all use it, right? But you look at a native plant. You go out into the forest and you look at a plant. Think of a tree. Okay, perfect example. You go to the mountains, you look at the tree. They look amazing. But then you really look at the tree for the structure and you go, it's got broken branches. It's kind of grown wonky because the wind is blowing it that way. Now you look at that exact same tree and come to Golden Acre or, wherever your independent garden center is, and you look at a spruce and you go, my God, that is magnificent. Every branch is balanced. The tips are great because we've cared for it. It's been grown in a farm. Somebody has looked after it. It's been watered. It's been fertilized. It hasn't had the adverse conditions that the one in the wild has had. So these plants can absolutely use maintenance. I'm not saying they don't want to be fertilized. I'm not saying they don't want to be watered. I'm not saying they don't want to be tended and cut and trimmed and looked after. I'm just saying it's not as essential as other plants. Other plants, they need it. They absolutely need it. They are not going to do well without it. These guys are like, I got it. I'll do just fine. Leave me alone. I might look a little bit shaggy. Like my hair is very low maintenance. Okay? And then you see other people and it's like perfectly parted and coiffed and everything else. It's very high maintenance. Both hairstyles look great. I too have had that hairstyle.
I'm high maintenance. You're low maintenance.
There you go. There you go. Right? See, right here. And we get along. And every once in a while, Brandy can be low maintenance. And every once in a while, I can be high maintenance. Like, when I'm not on camera and I'm pulling my diva behavior, I'm like, oh, Brandy, that lighting. Do something. I feel like I'm getting a lot of shadow. No. I'll be honest, I don't even know if the cameras are on. Brandy could just be like, okay, I'll get rid of Colin for 2 hours, everybody. I'll put him in the room and make him rant. But the plants, they're low maintenance. And that also means most of them can handle the bugs. They are disease resistant. If they got just riddled by disease and dropped dead, they wouldn't have thrived in an area where that disease is, because certain places you go to Montreal. A lot of the plants that we have brought into Montreal are susceptible to powdery mildew. Montreal is extremely humid, has not a ton of airflow. It's a landlocked area, Montreal, except it is an island. So it's surrounded by water in a province that isn't on the sea. So it does have huge rivers, but it doesn't have a ton of wind going through it. It gets stifling humidity. Powdery mildew is rampant. The native species are a hell of a lot more tolerant of it. Same here. All of the bugs, all of the problems that we're constantly fighting, the native plants are like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You go out into the forest and you see the non-natives and the native plants and you look at them. Most of the time the black knot isn't through the native plants, it's on the other ones. And you go, there you go. These plants are more resistant to it. So that low maintenance appeal, I absolutely know, when I've said that to people, instantly gets our attention. I can talk about, the erosion and over 100 years of blah, and people are like, wow, that is really fascinating, but you haven't sold me. And then you go, low maintenance, drought tolerant, and they're like, I will take 8.
Take my money.
Yeah, exactly. That meme, 100%. So that's what we're looking at. Now, I want to say something. I got to give a shout out here to our good friend Joanna from the Hort Society, because Joanna taught me this. When you take your plant home, okay, it doesn't matter what it might be, perennial grass tree, doesn't matter, and you plant it and you look after it, the first year you're like, it did nothing. It's alive, it's there, but it didn't perform. It didn't, grow. It wasn't, covered in flowers, whatever the case might be. Second year, it kind of looks the same. Got a little bit taller, it's alive, it's healthy, but didn't really do a whole heck of a lot. The third year, bam, this thing now owns it. Okay, it is absolutely killing it. Your rose is covered in blooms. Your willow is just exploding in new growth. Your grass seemed to double in height. And what they call it is sleeper, creeper, and leaper. So the first year it sleeps. Again, if you think about it, these plants grow in very adverse conditions. So during the wet period, when it propagates, it grows and then it pauses. So that's its sleeping stage. It's like, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm done. The next year, it's creeper. So while it's wet, while everything is happening, the growing conditions are perfect, those roots are going out and they're establishing. Like I said, you have a grass this tall with a 7-foot root system. That root system is going deep and it's looking for water and it's clinging on because it's like, all right, we're going to get through another winter. The third year, all of that's established. Now the top is like, I got you. We're going to photosynthesize. We're going to be here for the pollinators. We're going to put out flowers. And it leaps. It just, boom, explodes into its own. So, and again, none of this is written in stone. I guarantee people will be like, I planted a native plant, and by the first year it looked amazing. Wicked. Couldn't be happier. But a lot of times people go, didn't do anything. My grass, just be patient with them. They do need that little bit of more time. We haven't hybridized them. We haven't, mixed them with other plants to make them fast growing and make them super prolific blooms. We're letting them do what nature intended. So that is the maybe the downside of low maintenance, okay? I don't think it's a downside. It just requires a little bit more patience. If you're a gardener, you should know all about patience. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and I get it. That's why again, it's never, got to do all natives. You put in some of your native grasses, you let them do that, and while it's doing that, you got your begonias and your sunflowers and your tomatoes and your peppers and everything else to make you happy. So that's why variety is the spice of life. And I'm going to finish on a couple of points that, I think they're very important. They mean a lot to me. Anybody who's heard me talk knows that this is important to me, is the aesthetic. I love my garden. I love my color. I love my flowers. I love the diversity. I love the bugs. I love the birds. Everything and anything about it. I love seeing squirrels steal tomatoes. I think we might have some bees making a nest. I haven't decided if I can let them stay where they are. Unlikely, considering it is directly at the back door. So I may have to move them on, but I will deal with that. But I love everything it brings. The aesthetic quality is very important to me, be that flowers, colors, tones, or structures. And I get it. We talked about this. I think it was Caitlin who talked about this at the Home and Garden Show. When you're driving through the Alberta grasslands, you're driving down the highway at 100 kilometers an hour and it just all looks the same. You're like, whatever. Yeah. But when you get out of your vehicle, just stop, pull over, and get out. And I'm not talking about the farmers' fields. I'm not talking about that area. I'm talking about like the actual wildland, the parks, Drumheller, Dinosaur Provincial, Banff, all of that area. Get out and actually look. Oh my God, there's diversity. There's different color. There's orange flowers and purple flowers. There's pinks. There's roses. There's like ground covers. Huge 30-foot tall willows. Anything and everything you can imagine is there. Different color leaves, like different shaped foliage. It's actually really amazing. Ones that grow in shade, ones that grow in wetland, one that grow in full sun, ones that are drought tolerant, ones that want a wetter, shadier area. Because we talk about drought tolerant and we talk about, the full sun. I get asked a few times every year. Most of the time it is drought and sun, absolutely. That's what we get in Alberta. But we've talked about this before. We talked about it on the podcast recently. People have wet spots in their garden. They're hasn't been graded. They're at the bottom of the hill, whatever the case might be. They go, I got a wet spot. Nothing grows there. Some native willows will, I promise you, they will love that area. So all of these plants, there is a suitable plant for what you're looking for that also comes with all of the rich, beauty and diversity and hardiness and adding to the soil that we need. And the other aspect that I really like is the cultural significance. Not just the animals, not just, we've talked a lot about the flora, but the fauna. all of the animals that have been dependent, from the tiniest bugs and, microscopic nematodes in the soil, up to the grizzly bears and the eagles. But the people, there's been people living in Alberta for thousands and thousands of years. And the reason they were able to live here is because of the plants, is because of that rich soil and the forests that we had and the animals that were available, the rivers, the streams, the wetlands, everything else. So these plants, they have a cultural significance to this province that we call home, to this area of the province that we call home. They're the reason that there is life here in any form, from us all the way down to the tiny, tiny little thing living in the soil. Everything is dependent on this. And when I look at that, I kind of go, yeah, you know what? You do deserve a place in my yard. You do. I do want a little area with maybe 3 or 4 grasses. Maybe I want some willows over there. I promise you this, no matter what I put in my garden this year, I've already done a planter, and it's got osteospermum in it, it's got creeping jenny, it's got bacopa, it's got calibrachoa. It is absolutely filled with plants that are from Africa and England, and none of them are here. But I will absolutely have some of these plants in my garden because I want the diversity and I want the connection. I want the aesthetic. I want the bugs to have a home. I want the birds to see these plants and these trees. And that's what I'm looking for. So that's why I find native plants important. I find them fascinating. I find them relevant. And I'll say this as well. We haven't even got going yet. Huge thank you to Calgary. The amount of interest that, so we haven't even got one yet. Our friends at Ecologic haven't given us the plants. I hope Brandy gets to join me, but Brandy and I are planning on going out to visit them on Monday. The plants should be installed this. Keep your eye on our social media for a planting opportunity with us, Ecologic, City of Calgary. There'll be refreshments and snacks. It'll be a good time. Keep your eye out for that. But the amount of people that were interested at the Home and Garden Show, the amount of people I'm hearing from the floor where staff members are coming up to me and going, hey, when are the native plants coming? People are very interested. They want them. And I'm like, thank you, Calgary, because it doesn't matter how much I love something. If you guys don't love it and you're not supporting it, meh, that's how it works. So huge thank you to Calgary. Huge thank you for listening. I love my perennials. Everybody knows that. I love my flowers. If it's not very obvious that I love my native perennials and grasses after this, I don't know what else to say. If there's any